Welcome to Selling on Giants. Today's episode focuses on a shift happening right now on Amazon that most brands are not fully prepared for yet, and that is 3D models. I'm joined by Ganesh Singh, co-founder and COO of 3dimages.ai, where he helps brands increase sales through interactive 3D product experiences. In this conversation, we break down why Amazon is pushing 3D models across the platform, what that means for brands, and how this fits into the broader shift towards a more immersive shopping experience. Ganesh also shares how brands can actually use 3D beyond just a visual upgrade, from improving conversion rates, improving dwell time, and unlocking new opportunities on the platform. We also get into the real question most operators are asking. Does this actually move the needle, and is it worth the investment for every product? If you are thinking about how to stay competitive on Amazon over the next 12 to 24 months, this is one of those changes you want to get ahead of early. Let's jump in. Hey, Ganesh, welcome to the Selling on Giants podcast. I'm super excited you've taken the time to chat with me about 3D models. Before we dive into it, first things first, tell me about yourself. How such a unique niche? How did you get into 3D models, and what made you run this service for your company?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story. So I first started selling on. I did my own e-com brand when I was 19. So I built up a brand. I sold it for not a lot, but it was quite a small brand. And I eventually, I got into learning about e-commerce, the ins and outs of it. But then they like ChatGPT started to become very popular. This was like 2021 even, or something, probably a bit later than that. So yeah, ChatGPT started to become on the rise. So I got really into AI. So eventually after that point, I was like, you know what? Building a brand was kind of interesting, but data and AI is going to be the next biggest thing. So, I built a Chrome extension that analyzes Amazon reviews, and that became quite a decent class, and managed to sell that on. So I was 21 years old when I did that. But yeah, I got really deep into tech, and I ended up becoming a software engineer. I hated my job. I just, I really wanted to go back into the e-com space. So I got back into the e-com space, and a few of these agency operators, like some of these people I previously networked with, they were like, all right, 3D models are going to become the next biggest thing in e-commerce in the next 5 years. I don't know why, but go and figure it out. That's literally, I literally, they left me with that. They were like, there's so many companies building this space, but they're not doing it properly. They don't understand brands. So go learn about 3D models, go on your rabbit holes and go and figure it out. And, we spent months, like analyzing, like, all right, why do brands need a 3D model? Like, why is this important? And I think, yeah, so I instantly went into the Amazon direction, and obviously we started uploading them onto Amazon listings. We started trying it with different brands, and it seemed to be working pretty well. Like for some brands, it's like the dwell time, so people spend like hundreds of thousands if not on ads every day, but they want to keep on their listing for as long as possible. So we were just finding that 3D models were just adding a ton of time to people's listings, and obviously like boosting conversions. So we're just finding a lot of use cases for it. But one thing I'm going to touch on today is like how it fits with AI and the things you can do with it once you have a 3D model. So that's kind of how I got started into it. But yeah, I don't want to go too much into it. Yeah,
Ganesh, that's pretty interesting too. And like it's so interesting when I chat with other founders, because it's like you started off doing this one thing. You should be proud. Not a lot of people could say they sold the business, let alone two. And you've kind of had that journey, and then it's so weird how life presents you opportunities and how you kind of just find your passion. Before we jump in, what were you doing in the software space before you came back to e-commerce?
I was a software engineer for a tech company, because it's funny. I passed all my interviews using AI, because the interview process was quite easy, because it was still manual coding tests. So I just plugged everything to ChatGPT, and the funny thing is, I was for 2 years as a software engineer. I don't know how to code. Like genuinely, I spent 2 years as a software engineer. I don't know how to code one line. I don't know how to write one line of code. I literally used AI for 2 years coding, and but that's really when it hit me, because I was like, why? Like, I don't know how to code. I know how to use AI really, really well. But I don't want to be working for in this corporate space. I want to be building, using this for something useful. So that's when I came back into e-commerce, and I was like, yeah, I understand this space. I understand tech. Let me go and figure something out. So yeah.
That's pretty amazing, man. And man, that is impressive. The day of AI, man, it's like, it's insane. I use it for a lot too. And it's amazing how, boy, anybody who's the developer is in trouble. That's for sure.
100%.
Well, cool. Well, let's jump in. So the theme and the topic today is why 3D models are becoming required on Amazon. And you've already kind of hinted at it a little bit, but for now, let's keep it really basic for our listeners who are maybe new to selling and don't even understand where 3D models fit into the consumer or the shopper journey and how they should think about it. So to get started, how is Amazon pushing 3D models right now? And what should sellers understand on a really basic level?
So yeah, so 3D models are really interesting for Amazon because, if you put it in Amazon's perspective, they have a lot of competitors now. So you have Temu now, you have Walmart, you have like TikTok Shop. So from a very, very high level, Amazon want people to stay on their app. They don't want people going on Temu or TikTok Shop. They want them to buy and shop on Amazon. So what does that look like from a higher perspective? Well, that means more time spent on the mobile app or on the desktop or anything like that. So they are always throwing new ways to get people hooked on the app. So obviously, like Rufus is one of them. 3D models is one of them because you can play around with it. There's also virtual try on. There's all these little things that Amazon put on their platform to get people to stay on there. So from Amazon's point of view, 3D models is a good way for people to spend more time on your listings, generally speaking. But for certain categories, obviously, it makes a lot more sense. So people use these 3D models to inspect maybe the product from all angles. So if something has like a zipper or a finer fabric, people want to see what it looks like up close or see certain compartments and get a better understanding of the product. It works really well for certain categories. So I'm talking like electronics, fashion accessories, on the top of my head, furniture even. And obviously Amazon have the view in your room feature. So, if you want to buy a couch, for example, you can use your phone, view it in your room. And and Amazon are A/B testing 3D models quite heavily. So throughout our clients at the moment, so obviously there's a view in 3D button that appears on your listing, right? But we've seen 3D models in the image carousel. So they've actually put it in image carousel, and they've also put it on the desktop. So if you're shopping on desktop, 3D model also like just appears as well. So they're A/B testing it a lot because it's making customers stay on their listings a lot longer. So that's really the main reason why Amazon wants it. And obviously, as a new seller, it's really hard to be competitive, right? There's a lot of copycat products on Amazon. It's your creatives have to say a lot about what your product is, right? It has to build trust, it has to build transparency, and product returns are a huge issue as well. So if 3D models are good because obviously Amazon, they make sure that the 3D models are 100% true to what the customer receives. So if you're adding that in, people know exactly what they're going to receive. So obviously reduces returns. So it really depends. You'll get better results based on certain categories, but generally speaking, it pretty much benefits most brands. So yeah.
I can totally see that. And man, you hit a whole bunch there, but something I wanted to bring up, and we did a webinar not too long ago together, and I want you to share this with my audience here because I thought it was pretty interesting. Can you talk about the evolution from A+ video and now into 3D? Because that's something that, what are we, 2 months later, and it still resonates from our earlier conversation?
Yeah. So it was interesting because obviously Amazon have released loads of new features over time, right? So, obviously first of all, it's like A+ content. So when Amazon first released it, obviously you have to scroll down quite far down into the desktop or your mobile app to even see A+ content. So, obviously brands didn't really think this was, this was important, or they didn't take it that seriously. But now I know any new seller who wants to go sell on Amazon, you can't think twice. Like you have to get A+ content to remain competitive. Luckily, graphic designers getting someone on Fiverr was quite accessible, and over time that became really, really easy. And obviously then Amazon were pushing videos, and obviously videos make a ton of sense. Like you obviously want to see people use your product, so loads of people just jumped on videos instantly. And yeah, 3D models is an interesting one because Amazon first did a 360 spin feature on the mobile app, so you can scan the product. But no one was using it because it took 5 minutes or even 20 minutes to take like one to just do one product, but some brands have hundreds, 200s of SKUs, right? And the quality just wasn't there. So Amazon were like, all right, well, this feature works really well, but the app isn't it? Like we can't do it on. I mean, we can do it on the app, but it would be easier for 3D artists to do. So last year they basically opened up 3D models to the world. They were like, all right, if you're a talented 3D artist, create 3D models for Amazon, and that's what they did. And yeah, a lot of brands still struggled because these 3D artists, they primarily were from the gaming industry, right? So they were like, okay, well, we can create these for, I can create a moisturizer or something like that pretty easily, but it'll become pixelated or the colors are wrong, and Amazon will just reject it. So brands were still struggling really, really hard. They were struggling a lot to get 3D models. So that's really the pain that we felt. And we Amazon have really strict QA compliance. So, when we first started, for example, our first 3D model got rejected like 20 times. So it took about five weeks to upload one 3D model because they just gatekeep all of their documentation and so and over time we just tracked it. We tracked exactly what was going wrong with it, and now we just upload. When it gets uploaded, it gets done like first time. So it's getting easier to get a 3D model with the more experience obviously a 3D artist has and so forth. So yeah,
that evolution is amazing. You hit a couple of things too. The shopper journey is changing. It's becoming more engaging and interactive, and 3D models are a big part of that. You mentioned dwell time, and we'll talk about KPIs, but obviously the longer somebody stays on the listing, the more likely you are going to convert them as a shopper into a customer. And then the evolution of when you were first to get A+ content, you got to reap the benefits of conversion rates and more sales. When videos came out, you were able to really showcase your brand in these different lights. And then each of these pieces made the customer and shopper experience better. And now we're seeing the next rendition of that, which is through 3D modeling. So exactly. My next question for some of our sellers now who maybe have been selling and they're like, is this for me? Like, what are the impacts? So first thing I want to talk about KPIs. Like, how do you measure success? Is it just total sales, or are there other KPIs you look at or your clients share with you that we should be aware of as we're going down this rabbit hole together of 3D models?
Yeah, so I guess I guess the first thing, if you're just directly using it to upload onto your Amazon listing, yeah, obviously measure conversions, right? So keep everything constant, like your ad spend and so forth, so nothing impacts the conversion rate, and just see if the 3D model improves conversions, because obviously with some brands, a 0.1% increase in conversions is worth it, right? It makes up the cost within a couple of days or a few weeks, for example. So yeah, obviously measure conversions, look at returns as well, because your customers might be saying, oh, the item wasn't as described. So the only things that really says is, okay, your listing doesn't truly reflect what the product actually is when they receive it. So let's see if a 3D model fixes that. If they actually see it before they buy it, maybe that reduces those sort of returns. So those are the main two sort of KPIs I would probably analyze. Yeah.
Beautiful. So those are obviously sales, the conversion rates. Conversion directly impacts, and like to your point, we work with some brands that a 1% increase in conversion rates is a lot of money. So I could see how they'd want to do it. And I love the aspect of reducing return rate. So doesn't impact sales, but if it reduces return rate, then it technically makes you more profitable on the platform, and that could be an investment worth in itself. Cups, water bottles, I've seen it in so many categories where it's like, it's smaller than I thought or whatever else. So getting the full scope of what this looks like in your hand can go a long way. Before I jump into my next set of questions, is this available for all categories? Is this for any seller? Are there any categories that are restricted? Or are there any categories you recommend that you think would be a really good fit for your services?
Yeah, so 3D models specifically, if you just want to upload it onto the 360 viewer, obviously you've got jewelry is a huge one, furniture is a no-brainer, fashion accessories, anything that obviously people would want to view it in their room before they buy it. Like you kind of have to like put yourself in that frame of mind. Anything with loads of components as well, so anything very technical, so like obviously like cameras or stuff like that. So those will see probably the biggest ROI. And in terms of if it's available in every category, so there's like a few odd categories where Amazon for some reason don't allow 3D models. So I think it's like headphones was like one really odd one. I don't have the answer for why they don't allow it, but they don't allow it. And yeah, but for most categories, you should be able to use the view in 3D button. But it's easy. It's really easy to go and check. You just go into upload images, and it should tell you if you can upload a 3D model. But we haven't come across it yet.
I always find it crazy too, because I would think there's some categories where it doesn't make sense, but we've worked with supplement brands where you could take the bottle and spin it around. Same thing with beauty products. You would think because it's in a container and it's 12 ounces or whatever it is, that it's pretty standard, but it is a feature. Brands are using them. And it also, to your point, I'm perfect example. I'm interacting with the product. Like, I know just maybe because it's a novelty, but it is pretty cool. And it does add something unique that not all the other sellers are doing. So I think that's pretty interesting on which categories, or if my category is right for it or not.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So on that note, what are some common mistakes brands or misconceptions brands might have about 3D images or uploading 3D images to their products, their merchandise?
Yeah. So I guess this is what maybe I can start with the question you were probably going to ask after this. So essentially, the biggest misconception is that it's only to be used on the 360 viewer. So obviously, there's a ton of use cases outside of 3D model. I don't know if this will answer your question, but obviously you invest in a 3D model, but what actually is a 3D model of your product? Like, let's actually define it for what it actually is. It's a digital 3D version of your product on the internet, right? So straight away, you should be able to do things with that, right? Like, you should be able to create images, you should be able to create videos, you should be able to put it on your Shopify website or create animations and so forth. So the biggest misconception is people only think this is for 360 viewers, but no. So I'll go into the thing that will blow your mind. So basically, last week, Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he's building this. He's partnered with Adobe, right? And they have fixed the product. So I don't know if you've ever created AI images, right? So obviously you take a picture of your product and you upload it to Gemini, Nano Banana, Higgsfield, whatever you want to use. And it creates images and videos and so forth. But the quality of the product hallucinates. Obviously, the pictures hallucinate, the videos drift into, your product looks different in every shot, right?
Labels, always labels with us. But yeah.
But not only that, the sizing, obviously the material, the texture, and so forth. So now you're probably going to see where this parallel is. So a 3D model is the exact size, the exact label, the exact texture, everything, right? So what Adobe and NVIDIA have done is they've done a partnership, and they've created a software where it's not going to be called a 3D model anymore. It's going to be called a digital twin. And the digital twin is going to be used to create AI images and videos. So all your images are going to be spot on pixel accurate. All your videos are going to be spot on pixel accurate, all generated by AI. And what NVIDIA said, what Jensen Huang said, was the future of AI images and visuals, images and videos will always start with a digital twin. It won't be you starting with taking a picture of your product. It's going to be a digital twin. So that's really what we've been into, and like it's really interesting because obviously in AI, a digital twin will know the texture of your product, it will know the size. It will, if you want to put this in, I don't know, a table, generate a table from AI, for example, it will know the size relative to the table. So all your images are going to be accurate, all your videos are going to be accurate. So this is not just for a 360 viewer, right? So this is for when you want to generate stuff with AI. So it's going to be crazy.
That is wild. And that's actually really cool too. I have a really close friend, and they are launching their first brand. We're excited. We're helping them out. And when they told me they were going to go get photographs done, lifestyle images, they hired a photographer in a photo studio. They wanted to launch it right. And it's going to cost anywhere between like $15,000 to $20,000. And when they told me that, I was like, holy crap, guys, that's a huge chunk of your marketing budget. I get the importance of doing those images, but for your MVP, for starting out, you should consider using AI. And we use Amazon Creative Studio. to generate some general AI pics, and they were pretty good. They're not perfect. All the kids had 10 fingers, which was kind of nice, but obviously, to your point, some of the sizing, the in scale was a little bit off. Luckily, this is a toy, so we didn't have to deal with labels and stuff like that. But I can also see from your perspective, being that 3D solution that can be used in scale on video. So now all of a sudden it got a lot more affordable to be able to launch, test products, test ideas and concepts, and bring them to market. And whatever had legs will walk, and whatever doesn't will go. But at least you didn't drop $20,000 on a photo shoot before you knew.
100%. I think the best way to kind of visualize it is, obviously AI is the most accessible thing to small brands right now, right? You can look like a $20,000 photo shoot or a magazine cover just by doing a few prompts with AI. So essentially what this 3D model wave is the 3D model wave has hit because Jensen Huang has just announced it. So now we're not going to see it yet. To be honest, most brands, I wouldn't even if you're going to use it for images and videos, I probably wouldn't even recommend doing it now, because it's only accessible for like the top 1% of brands who have like custom software, like we've seen it. But in the next 2-3 years, well, actually by the end of this year, hopefully, you're going to start seeing brands, as soon as they want to launch a product, all right, we'll create a digital twin, and now it exists in like the matrix. Let's call it the matrix. And the AI agents can pick up your product, create UGC videos, go and create your images, go and create your lifestyle scenes, and you don't even have to send your product to a manual photo shoot. You just create one digital twin, and it lives in the matrix, the stratosphere, and everything else is handled for you. So that's the really exciting thing about 3D models. So yeah,
I'm excited too. The matrix, it's crazy. We are literally living in a digital world, and it's getting more and more closer to the real world, which is insane. I want to talk a little bit about your company, 3dimages.ai. But before I do, any closing thoughts for our sellers? Anything else that maybe I didn't touch on that they would find really compelling or interesting about using 3D images inside their Amazon or Shopify, TikTok, wherever these images would have the biggest impact?
Yeah, so I guess with the 3D model itself, I think the biggest misconception as well is if you want to create one for Amazon. So Amazon are really picky with their QA. Obviously, I think I've touched on that already. But they will actually check it to your main image. So if you're A/B testing your main images, if you're changing anything in the listing images, and it doesn't look like your original product, your 3D model will get rejected. So make sure that you can see your product from all angles or so forth on your listing images, because otherwise, if we go and create a 3D model, if a 3D artist goes and creates a 3D model, it will just get rejected. So you have to make sure that your images reflect your product, but then so when we create the 3D model, it doesn't get rejected. So I say that is the first thing. 3D services generally are just becoming more accessible now. So I think big thing if brands are creating social videos, like I would say in Instagram, TikTok, and for example, so creative diversity is going to be a big thing now as well. So people want to obviously people do UGC, people do their they create the content, but animations are a really cool way to show like different layers of fabric, or explode your product, so we'll see all the components, or or even supplements, so you see like the ingredients pop out in colors. So stuff like that is becoming very accessible now, especially with AI and 3D and stuff like that. So I'd say there's a lot of creative use cases as well for 3D models. So yeah, it's a good little trick in your arsenal if that's what you want.
I like it. I like hacks, tips, and tricks. Honestly, whatever moves the needle. And to your point, you're looking at the right KPIs. To talk about KPIs from mentioned earlier, conversion rates, sales. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. And I definitely understand how it works. More time on your listing means more chances to convert. So now let's talk about 3D Images AI. So first, what I love about your website and what I find really interesting is you have the pricing calculator built in. It's pretty much self-serve. What's that process like for a seller who's considering it? So they go to your website, like how do I upload my first image? What does this process look like? How long does it take? Tell me what it's like to work together.
Yeah, so yeah, if you want to create a 3D model, we have a pricing calculator. So you don't have to ask for a quote. You don't even have to message anyone. If you're selling a moisturizer, for example, or let's say a laptop case cover, literally just type that into our AI estimator, and because we've done so many of these, the AI is kind of good at predicting how complex it is. So yeah, it will just predict how complex it is, and it's as easy as just going to checkout. As soon as it hits the checkout, we'll have all your details. We'll have your Amazon ASIN, so you'll put that in the form, and there's another form you can fill out with pictures and dimensions and so forth. But once we've got all that information, we can typically just make a 3D model in under like 48 hours, and yeah, and it will be traced to your Amazon listing. So we actually have a couple people who previously worked at Amazon who did like the QA for 3D models. So they QA everything for us. They look at like they literally nitpick everything to make sure Amazon don't reject it. And yeah, so as soon as it's ready to upload, we just give you the instructions, you just upload it, and that's it. It's pretty transactional. So yeah.
I love that it's self-serve. It's nice. As somebody who runs an agency, like it's annoying to have to, we do a lot of affiliate marketing. So like to reach out to our guy to make sure what our pricing is, and it just kind of delays that process. So the fact that it's all self-serve is pretty sweet. And you mentioned how you guys keep the quality high. You have your own QA, QC team. I guess what sets you apart from maybe other service providers in the space? If I'm looking at a bunch of solutions, why should I go with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll literally give the whole, just give it all away. I mean, like, so the whole market really sits in like a spectrum. I mean, it's like you have one side which the biggest brands use, and they use this thing called a LiDAR scanner. Now, a LiDAR scanner is like it's literally what I was saying earlier. You put your product in a machine, and it like literally puts it into the matrix, right? So it's like it will literally create a 3D model for you using a scanner, but that's $1,000 per product, right? So that's, you might as well just go and do a photo shoot. Like there's literally no point using that if you're a small brand. And obviously the other alternative is there's 3D artists that you'll find online. They'll probably quote at like $30-$40. However, you know, Amazon would literally reject it if the compliance is off. You know, you can spend up to like we average about 4 or 5 weeks when we've used cheap freelancers before, because they just don't understand the Amazon compliance. And obviously like they get frustrated because it's like, all right, Amazon came back with this feedback, can you go and improve it? And they'll be like, all right, no, that's an extra $20, please. Like, I'm just like, what are you doing here? So then it eventually just ends up being like, like $150, $200, sometimes $300 for just a simple 3D model. So we basically, the thing that makes us stand out is, well, we understand Amazon compliance. If Amazon come back and reject it, don't worry about revisions, because we basically keep doing it until Amazon approve it. It's less headache and transparent pricing. So it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Now, do you guys upload it on our behalf, or do you send me the raw file? Do we get to keep the raw file? I guess that's my last question.
Yeah. So you get to keep, obviously the raw file is yours. We can upload it onto Amazon if you want. The other thing people should be aware of as well is this is more on the LiDAR scanning side. So there are LiDAR scanning providers. This is something we're going to explore in the future, because it's, for certain products, it does have that like crisp accuracy, but this isn't going to be accessible to like 7-8 figure, like probably even 8-9 figure brands. But with those sorts of with some providers, they actually don't give you access to the files, so it's a bit like counterintuitive. So with the LiDAR scanners, just make sure your provider obviously gives you the actual file, because they kind of trap you in, because they're like, all right, well, you've spent $1,000 to get a 3D model, but now you have to use our platform to create images and videos. But then they don't give you the 3D file, because it's like you're in their ecosystem. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. But yeah, when you create it with us, you keep the file, it's yours, you own it.
Transparent. I like it. Very cool. Well, Ganesh, this was super interesting. My last question I like to ask all my guests before we wrap up, do a little future prediction. So if it comes true, we could say we heard it here first on Selling on Giants. So you hit a lot. We talked a lot about the future AI. You shared some updates going on in the industry. So you took away my normal question. So for this, I want to ask, what do you think product detail pages will look like on Amazon in about 5 years from now?
Oh, that's interesting. So I think the main image will be a 3D model. Firstly, I think you'll have the option to do a 3D. Like, I've seen Amazon A/B test 3D models in the listing images, and I think what would be really cool is, well, when I say hero image, I mean like if you click on the Amazon listing, the first thing that will pop up is your 3D model that you can interact with. So I think that would be something that would really move the needle for Amazon, and a lot of brands will just get 3D models like that. I know for sure. So yeah, I think in terms of product detail pages, yeah, that would be the first thing. I think if people are using creating images and videos, obviously, they're going to be using a 3D model, digital twin with, I can go on that whole rabbit hole again with Adobe. So yeah, they'll be using their digital twin to create images and videos. So I think, yeah, I think that's probably the main thing I see on Amazon. But yeah, that's probably it.
Well, if it comes true, you heard it here first. Ganesh, thanks so much for being on the show. Before we wrap up, let us know where they can find you if anybody's interesting. So everybody knows all the links will be in the show notes below. But Ganesh, share with where we can find you if we wanted to track you.
Yeah, so the website is called 3dimages.ai. Pretty simple. I know you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My email is ganesh@3dimages.ai, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Should be quite easy to find.
Heck yeah, you're not hiding from us. I like it. Ganesh, man, thanks for being on the show. We appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thank you.
And that wraps it up for today's episode of Selling on Giants with Ganesh Singh. 3D models are quickly moving from a nice to have to something brands need to stay competitive, especially as Amazon continues to invest in more immersive shopping experiences. The key takeaway here is not just that 3D looks better, it gives customers more confidence, improves engagement, and open up new ways to use content across your entire funnel. If you want to learn more about Ganesh and his team, check out 3dimages.ai. We've included all the links in the show notes, including a special discount code for our listeners. If you found this helpful, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you're tuning in. It helps more operators find the show and keeps these conversations going. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Selling on Giants. This is Mr. Will, and I'm signing out.